for them after the Euros. And after my first day's training, I was driving home. I was actually thinking,
regretting it.
What have I done? Like I walked into a circus.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Phil Egan, how are you getting on?
Very well, how are you doing, lads?
Yeah, all good, all good. It's been a fairly busy transfer market so far for a lot of players. Are you enjoying it? Any deals that stick out so far to you?
I have to say I'm probably not enjoying there's far too much speculation, because people know if they put stories out there they'll get traffic online, so some of it you know that you shouldn't believe it. But saying that, I remember when the reports of Mane to Bayern Munich surfaced a few months ago, I thought, Mane's not going to go to Bayern Munich, and he went to Bayern Munich. So.
There's a story there that Coffey for Cork City has been linked with Go United, and Graham Cummins put it forward in the Examiner that it was essentially a ploy by the agent. And I was like, in the League of Ireland First Division, you've a ploy with the agent in order to get a better contract. So it's seeped that much into the game, which is like completely
absolutely. But like players will, or their agents will, obviously be happy enough for them to be linked with certain clubs. I think United are obviously such a massive club that you often see players linked with them, but then there was never actually a deal in place. But it looks good on the rumour mill if you've been linked with a club of that stature.
So Manchester United are on the verge of signing Frankie de Jong and Tyrell Malacia. Regarding the latter fullback, is that a good deal?
Yeah, he's good. I would have covered Feyenoord a good bit in the Conference League last season. They're very unlucky not to win it. Obviously, they got Mourinho'd in the final, but they played very quick attacking football, and Malacia was key to that. You know, he's a bundle of energy going up the left-hand side, and yeah, definitely would be an addition to a welcomed addition to the United squad. And I remember sitting in this studio a few years ago, and we talked about Luke Shaw was going through probably his best spell as a Manchester United player, but I always felt that for United to become a title contender, they need better than Luke Shaw. They need an all-energy fullback. They need two all-energy fullbacks that are comfortable in possession, that can go for 90 minutes. Luke Shaw doesn't do that. But I think what we're going to see differently this season as well is the fact that there's 5 subs, that players are being linked with moves, and you know, you look at them and you think, how are they going to fit into the team? But they don't have to fit into the first 11 as much as they would have had to, because there's going to be so many changes now that you could be making a triple substitution with half an hour to go. You could, I mean, we saw it actually before when there was 5 substitutes. Didn't Solskjaer make 5 substitutes at once towards the end of the season? That came back after the pandemic. So it's going to be part and parcel of the Premier League. Obviously, it's been on the continent, and Liverpool used it a few times in the Champions League as well. I think back to that game at the San Siro against Inter where Klopp made a triple substitution. So everyone's going to have bigger squads and players that you know, you've been talking about rugby a lot on the show this morning, but you think back to what Eddie Jones used to say about his bench, like his finishers, where sometimes you're finishing with a stronger team than you start. And, you know, that could be the case for Premier League clubs next season.
So next up, Gabriel Jesus to Arsenal has obviously been pretty much completed over the last couple of days. I think the general consensus is that this is a bit of a coup for Arsenal. Do you go along with that?
Yeah, so Lacazette has obviously gone. I felt a couple of years ago Arsenal should have cashed in on Lacazette. He's obviously gone on a free, but Jesus is an upgrade, definitely. You know, he's not going to bang in 30 goals a season, but I suppose what Arteta's trying to create is a forward unit that can share the goals, and Jesus definitely can play in any of those 3 positions. He could play in the right, he could play in the left, and obviously through the middle, and he hasn't played through the middle as much. You know, people kind of just felt that he would be a replacement for Aguero. He'd just step in when Aguero left Manchester City, but that wasn't the case. But yeah, no, he's definitely a player that would benefit as well from playing regular games. But Pep used him towards the end of the last season, so you know, we obviously rated him, but it definitely would be an upgrade for Arsenal.
Only 25, is it?
Yeah.
This is kind of almost the prime of his career.
Yeah, absolutely. Point to prove. Wants to get firing into the Brazil World Cup squad as well. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what kind of formation Arteta goes for. Vieira is a player they signed from Porto. they have a few players like that where they could play in that position just off the striker. Obviously, Odegaard is the one that springs to mind, but Emile Smith-Rowe is there as well. But as I said, they have European football as well, so they're going to have to chop and change. And I think, as I said, a lot of squads of those big six, they're all going to have big, deep squads. I find it's going to be a strange season in that with the 5, but also the break for the World Cup. It's almost like 2 parts of the season, so just try and manage it up until the World Cup and then reload for the second part. And you probably, if you're a club manager, you wouldn't be too sad if some of your players didn't make certain World Cup squads.
You talk about Jesus wanted to make the Brazil squad for the World Cup. Rafinha will be another man hoping to do so.
Yeah.
Arsenal, it looked like were leading the race to sign Rafinha a couple of days ago, but Chelsea appear to have gazumped them. It's hard to make a case that Rafinha won't be a success wherever he goes, especially given his Premier League quality and what he's done with a struggling Leeds side. Yeah,
absolutely. And I always had him in my thoughts as a potential Mo Salah replacement. Obviously, it looks like Salah will leave next summer, I thought. But Rafinha, that money, Leeds can't turn down that money. Now, if Leeds are losing Rafinha and Calvin Phillips, it's all well and good getting money, but if they don't spend it wisely, then they're going to be in serious trouble. Rafinha is a quality operator. He's been linked with everyone, Liverpool, Barcelona, looked like Arsenal. Now it looks like Chelsea, but he'd be a really good signing for whoever gets him. A player that just excites you when he gets the ball, takes on players, and when he gets into the penalty area, he knows how to finish. So it'll be a good signing for Chelsea if they can get it done.
A couple of other things to go through. There's been reports that Neymar has been told by Paris Saint-Germain that he is no longer wanted at the football club. Where should he go?
Who's going to take him? See, this is the problem now, where I think you could see more big moves from players going to rival clubs in the Premier League, because the Spanish clubs aren't going to be able to get the players that they used to always. If Barca or Real Madrid came knocking, you were gone. But Premier League players, the money they're getting now, obviously the Premier League is so strong at the moment, so why would they go? Barcelona, we don't know what the story is with them. So if that's the case, like, what Premier League club is going to sign Neymar? Who can afford them? Who can afford his wages, the transfer fee? There's not many. And who, like, look at the top, like, would Pep Guardiola want Neymar? Absolutely not.
Definitely not?
No. Like, there'd be a personality clash there, I think. And they don't need him. They've just got Haaland.
Yeah.
I don't think they need him. Who else gets him? Like, the only ones that have the money, okay, Chelsea, but Newcastle.
Neymar at Newcastle would be fun.
He's the most Newcastle signing where it would. But again,
do you expect actually Newcastle to, like, in terms of flexing their muscles, how much are they going to spend in the off?
I think it's going to be a gradual phase at Newcastle where,
because Eddie Howe's not an idiot as well, like,
no,
you know.
They won't go with these kind of players straight away, but they'll be in a position in a few years where they can do it. And
great for the game, actually.
They're growing the game.
They're growing the game, yeah. Graham McDougall will be delighted with that.
Yeah, and I know, like, we're going to talk about Nathan Collins, and Newcastle are one of the clubs that are linked to him. And if you're Nathan Collins, like, if you go to Newcastle, you know that in a few years their trajectory is just going to keep going up. Whatever people think about the Saudi ownership, I mean, we've seen the new jersey that they have is basically a Saudi Arabia jersey, and it's, you know, it sits uncomfortably with a lot of people. But footballers have a short space of time to achieve what they want in the game, and if they're getting huge money for it, they're not going to turn down. Like, I mean, we're seeing it with the golfers. Like, the footballers are going to be the same.
Yeah, like Alex Murphy has left Go United to sign for Newcastle as well, and it's so mad that, like, this Saudi takeover of Go United, which was going to happen a few years ago, fell through in a mysterious circumstances. Fell through, and then a few years later, we're getting hundreds of thousands from Saudi Arabia, effectively.
You could be limbering up for Champions League football this season, but you missed out on it. I just want, like, just to quickly touch on that, Phil, before we wrap this morning. Nathan Collins, where do you want to see him go?
The 4 clubs that he's been linked with are Newcastle, Aston Villa, Leeds and Leicester. I'd be steering clear of Leeds. I think Villa would be a good move for him in the fact that, or Leicester, like I could see him getting game time. I could see him, I know Villa have signed Carlos from Sevilla, but they had never really been convincing at the back with Konza and Tyrone Mings. And I just think back to, there was a game I watched with Villa last season. I think it was Liverpool. It was the Villa Park game towards the end of the season where you could audibly hear Gerrard say to Mings and Konza, you could hear him shout at them, no risks. So don't get caught on the ball, because sometimes they might try and take the ball forward and they lose it and then they're out of position. It was almost like he looked at them and said, back to basics. So it was no surprise to see that he went into the transfer market. Nathan Collins, if he goes to Leicester, he might be playing in a 3. Brendan Rodgers often played a 3 at the back because they were just conceding goals, and I think their biggest problem last season was from set pieces, so he would be a welcomed addition. But yeah, it does look like the move is going to happen for him. Look, if he went to any of those clubs, I can see him breaking into all 4 of the sides. I know Newcastle are going to they've got the Sven Botman deal done, which this is a guy that moved to Lille and for little or no money from Ajax, and then just because Lille won the league in France, the asking fee went up considerably. But be interested to see how he gets on, because he was another player that had been linked with a few of the other clubs in the Premier League. But it's Nathan Collins has to think what's the best move for him. And
very interesting one. There are lots of things to consider. 3 at the back. Are they a footballing team? Do they concede goals?
Absolutely. And I think it's not looked at enough for players. Just look at a club and they think, yeah, I'll go there. Where it's very important to look at the club of, who's the manager? What style of play do they have? What formation? Are you going to get the best out of it?
Even where do you want to live? Like, it is a job. Do you want to live in London? Do you want to live somewhere,
Yeah.
Yeah, Phil, good stuff.
Thanks, lads.
That's Deal or No Deal.